Welcome to Story Route Zero.
This is a podcast where friends gather to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the strange worlds of video games. We often don't know where we're going, but that's half the fun. Come on the journey with us. Hit us up on Twitter at StoryRoute0. You can send us an email at StoryRoute0@gmail.com. That includes questions, concerns, comments, complaints, pet pics. Send us some recipes. Send us some stories about your day. We're going to listen.
Podcast, start your engines. We have liftoff. Let's have a journey.
Baby shark, doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. Baby shark, mommy shark, doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. Damn it! I can't even get the lyrics. We need Matt back.
You shouldn't have looked at me.
I'm Jason, and this is Story Route Zero, and we are half full tonight. It's me and the transplant masshole, Michaela.
What's up?
This is Story Route Zero Game Club number 6. For the viewers, we are doing CrossCode by Radical Fish Games, which is a great developer name. Radical Fish Games.
I have no idea where they came up with it. I believe they're German, yeah? German-based?
Well, their publisher's Deck 13, which their description is two angry German brothers. So, kind of goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually their only game.
Yeah, and they've been working on it for like 8 years.
Yes. But before we get into CrossCode, how was your weekend?
My weekend was full of football. Football is back.
It is, but it's weird.
It is weird.
I get the alerts on my phone, but it's still... Is this real?
Yeah. Also, as a New England person, it's weird because most of my life, Patriots was synonymous with Brady, and now it is very not.
This is the beginning of the non-Brady era.
He's been with the Pats since I was like 6, so long time. But I watched some of the Pats, but I watched Clemson. I watched college start off this Saturday with my family. I got a haircut for the first time in a year. My hair actually fits in the frame today.
It does. It does.
It's a half a foot shorter. And I played some games and I worked out. We had some nice weather. But yeah, mostly it was football. How about you? How was your weekend?
Football was there. Like I said, it was weird. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so. But yeah, like for Brady, like I'm a Giants fan, so I grew up. It was Phil Simms. Giants won the Super Bowl, but like I was too young to really latch on necessarily. Like I got to watch Simms and LT, but I don't remember it as much. Like you've watched football your formative years with Brady. Like that's been like for me it's Eli, which obviously counters to your Brady. I didn't plan that, but like it's weird to think, even for me, Patriots without. It's weird because he's playing. I think that's
yes.
I think if he retired, like obviously in my shoes, Eli retired, so it's like the Yankees
without. Which is what Brady should have done, but I feel like he's got something to prove to the world or whatever.
It's like I'm a Yankee fan, so like Jeter retiring, okay, it's done. It's not like it'd be weird going to a different team. Like he's still playing, but he's not.
Yeah. And they didn't, of course, the Bucs didn't win their first game, and it didn't go well, and I believe he threw a pick 6.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. My fantasy team did good.
Oh, that's good. Also, watching Cam Newton in a Pats uniform was
I don't like Cam Newton at all.
I
It's not even the
not.
Patriots thing. I just not a fan. I think he's
I don't like the things he said.
he's an ass.
I like where he comes from in a football background. He came out of Auburn, which is a good program.
Yeah.
Respect there. But yeah, I just don't like some of the things he said.
I remember him in college. Like I think I'm a bigger college fan.
Same.
But I'm a bigger Giants fan than a Notre Dame fan. But as a whole, I think college football, because they're kids and yes, they want to play
Fun
for
to
that
watch.
contract, but like
Yeah.
I think there's more on the line for all of them. Like
Yep.
even if they're
Especially in a
losing,
year like this. Yeah.
even if they're losing, because they're still going for that pro deal. Like pro football players, if they're losing, it's like, okay, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Also, I got to check, but I believe Clemson plays Notre Dame on November 7th.
I believe you're right. I know there's a matchup.
Yep.
Notre Dame had to play Duke, which was weird. They beat
Duke
them.
actually, I think Duke is where the Clemson backup quarterback transferred and is now playing.
Yeah, Notre Dame won 27-13, I believe.
Yeah, Clemson won a lot to nothing. They're gonna blow everybody out. They played Wake Forest, so.
Yeah, my fantasy team won, or I'm 99% chance to win. I don't Yahoo. It's like nobody's playing tonight for either team. I won. I can't lose points at this point, but that's good because I don't know about Daniel Jones leading the Giants anywhere.
Oh, football.
Yeah, still weird, but I don't know if I'll get accustomed to it at all. It's just a strange. I feel like football needs the sounds more than other sports.
Yes, although we did get some sound on Thursday night that we didn't need. I don't know if you saw when the Texans and the Chiefs did that moment of silence and the crowd
Yeah, they
booed.
booed. Yeah.
People. Just people. Man,
It's
people.
probably because football's in a bigger arena than
Yeah.
the other, like obviously hockey and basketball are indoors. You could pump in artificial sound. Football though, even though you could pump in the sound, it's still outdoors.
And baseball's been kind of dying a little
Baseball's
bit.
it's weird. Baseball's my favorite sport. It's just weird, like the short season, it's just sports are just weird. But we have video games.
We do. Who
We
needs
do have
sports?
Game Club, but did you play anything else briefly or get anything done?
Yeah, I played a little Persona. A little bit.
A little more Persona.
A little more Persona. But yeah, that was really, it was Persona and mostly finishing CrossCode.
Oh, nice. I'm never playing Persona, ever.
I'm going to keep trying.
You could keep trying.
For every time you guys get on me about Remnant, I'm just going to send like Persona gifts. That's my new response.
I mean, you could send me Persona and I'll send you Remnant.
Yeah, but I will play Remnant.
Here's a good point.
Not
I mean,
the other way around.
I would try it. I think it's the setting.
That's put me off as well because I'm not into the high school thing.
I didn't like my own high school. I'm not gonna play a video game in high school.
Nobody likes high school, and if they did, they're lying.
Liars. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I'll tell you what, if I ever clear my backlog out.
Never. How big is your backlog?
If I ever clear my PlayStation backlog.
Is that the biggest one?
No.
Or is Steam bigger?
Steam is hands down. But in Steam's defense, there's a lot of humble bundles. So like I bought one game and it's like, here's 15 other codes. Plus, there's always free games on PC, like GOG offers or like Origin or anything. They're like, free game. Log in this weekend, free game. PlayStation's at like 400.
Okay, you just made me feel a lot better about my backlog.
I can make you feel even better. That's 400, and I went through and removed all the PS Plus games.
I don't count PS Plus games in my backlog either, but.
Well, I removed them from so when you look at the library, It says PS Plus. The games in PS Plus aren't in the purchased section. Yeah, yeah. To be fair, there's probably 50 games in there that are beaten but not platinumed, and I have to leave them in there. Because I delete games. I hide games as I go through in the hopes that it'll dwindle down to. I think my goal is sub 100.
And what do you have a turnaround time on that?
No, absolutely not.
By 2025?
No. I'm going to be better with PS5.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to be better.
Famous last words.
Today I went through and I deleted my wish list on Steam, Switch, and PS4. So
there'll be a new wish list after Wednesday, but we'll get to that.
Well, yeah, but I won't physically be able to add any, probably, because it won't be on the store.
Yet.
Anyway. I pretty much, I had finished CrossCode, but I didn't buy it, but I started Kingdoms of Amalur. Kind of wish I played it on PS3. I'm about 9 hours in. It's a lot of fun.
Are you playing on PS4?
Yeah. It's nothing amazing graphics wise. I think people are a lot of giving them shit, but it wasn't like it's not a
remake. Yeah.
It's a
lift.
It's a port, I think, essentially with an upgrade. I think it's akin to like the Super Mario 64 coming out on Switch. It's fundamentally the same game. It's just running on.
The danger, though, is that they called it Re-Reckoning, which almost implies something else, you know?
I'm just curious how bad the load times were on PS3, because some of them are pretty bad and you're constantly loading, and some of them are like, okay, gonna go make coffee. Not get coffee, make a pod. It's still loading. What the? No, but I think the combat's a lot of fun. It's a lot faster than like Skyrim and Dragon's Dogma. It's super fast paced. Like I'm playing like a rogue, so I'm pretty much all over the battlefield. It's a lot of fun. I said CrossCode that here and there, Tony Hawk. That platinum's going to be a nightmare.
What do you have left?
You have to get to level 100. I'm 40, and I'm done with both games. So there's a lot of challenges to do, like get every gap in one run, or hit this gap doing this trick while doing this, or
all skill based.
Yeah, there's like you have to speed run every level, which is basically get all the goals in one shot, like in 1 2-minute session.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to do every challenge to get to 100, but yeah, I'm like not even halfway, and I'm done with the core of the game. So easy. I could push the completionist aside, and it's like, okay, I'm done. I beat the game. It says 100% on both screens for 1 and 2.
Just not in the trophy section under the game tile.
No. I should just play under another account, and then that way, when I look at my trophy list, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Got it. It's all one platinum though for 1 and 2. Yeah.
Because when you hit skate, you hit tours, and it says then you choose 1, 2, or free skate, like with multiplayer, speed runs, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all one. I thought it was going to be 2, but
yeah, because a lot of these like Spyro, Crash, they separate them out, even if it's all one package.
Yeah. And that's about it. So CrossCode. It started development in 2012. It went on Indiegogo for a bit, and then it was in early access for 3 years. It came out on PC in September of 2018, and it finally came out on consoles in July of this year. quite the development.
Yeah.
I don't know if the team was smaller.
I don't know how big their team is. I'm assuming it's pretty small. This is their only project. They're a young
Yeah.
studio, so.
Well, they are working on additional content for this.
Do you know what it is?
Skipping ahead, if you get the good ending, it would take you there. So if you get the bad ending, you don't get to do it.
I mean, you can just save scum that.
True. Well, yeah, I guess you could. I mean, you know when you're going to get to that point, but they might change that, though. That seems like a weird, like, only if you get this one ending, you get to play the DLC. Seems like
Yeah.
a weird.
It is weird, but I mean, with the bad ending, it's understandable that you wouldn't be able to progress.
True. I mean, it makes sense. Like, so
It's a bad
skipping
ending for a
ahead.
reason.
No, we can't skip ahead because we have to explain the game. Because
Yes.
the
What are we
the
talking
game
about?
story is not. I don't think it's difficult by any means, but it does.
No.
It's basically Inception, and not like just it's a game within a game. Like, so you play as you're playing a game, which is playing an MMO. So do you have any experience with MMOs?
Does RuneScape from circa 2006 count?
Yes. Yes and no. I mean, I think there's a lot of mechanics in game that you see in standard MMOs today, like party invite, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, you do. Yes.
Those were around back in the days of dial-up. They existed.
So when you start the game, you don't know it's a MMO. About half hour in after the tutorial, you realize you are a character who is a fish out of water, not to do a pun on their name, and you're supposed to be in this MMO called Crossworlds. So you're essentially, you play as Leah, and you're an avatar of this, whoever Leah, her real character is. And did you ever notice, without spoiling at this point, you knew everyone's real name and then their game name, but Leah was just Leah?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously for good reason, but
Well,
nobody
yeah.
like.
She's also set up at the very beginning. She's got amnesia. She can't talk. They handle it very humorously. Like the only word she can say is hi within the first like hour of the game. So because of that like light nature, you don't overthink it too much.
Yeah, and it's not her not talking. It's not like I wonder why she can't. Like, apparently it's a known issue that some of these avatars.
But it's supposed to be resolved by now. Like, people are surprised. Like, that's still an issue?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's probably about an hour, maybe. Once you get through, you get back into this MMO, where you meet your, I guess your partner in crime, your best friend Emily, immediately, and you're basically grouped up. And if you played an MMO, you literally have a party invite, like you join the party.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got that you're in the MMO playing the character in the game. So it's
very meta.
a little, it's super meta. Like, they're really going like for everything here. And it's strange because you interact with real people like Carla and the captain, who at first the captain, that's his like game name, but he's not.
They're not on the island though. They're not in the playground. They're like employees, right?
So I was thinking, did he play the game at one point? And
he shows up. at one point and saves your ass.
Right, but I'm saying, like, that's why he goes by Captain Jet?
Yeah, well, he also wears a jetpack, so that's not normal. I don't know about you, but so that would make sense if he's like, I don't know, affected by the game or it sticks with him. It's part of his persona now.
Yeah, so even playing through, so I played through it 1.25 times. So I played on PC actually because I had this weird bug on the Switch where, because I constantly put games in rest mode, when I'd come back, I'd have this audio screeching every time. It would go away, but there were enough times where I woke Amelia up by turning the thing on. It was like, "Arr!" I'm like,
Oh, wow. I
what the
never
hell
had
is
that.
So I don't know if I paused at the wrong time, because you could almost pause any time. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's because I paused during something that was happening, or I didn't pause. Rather, I just hit the power button.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing on PC, which they tell you need a controller for good reason, because
Yes.
trying to aim. So I played on PC. When you start, though, they're trying to teach you about the game, but you're not in the game yet. Did that seem weird to you? Like, looking back on that, like, I understand when you get in the game, they teach you these mechanics of the MMO.
Mm-hmm.
But like, before you get into Cross Worlds, Carla's teaching you about attacks and what. It's like, how would you be able to do it if you're not, unless because you're an avatar outside?
Yeah, it's because she's made of instant matter or whatever.
Right.
Remember they were fascinated by that later in the game. They like throw buckets of water on her to see how she would do because and then that little kid was picking her up and throwing her. Um, so yeah, I guess she can do it regardless of where she is. Like she doesn't have to be like in a server to be doing that because she's made of this special material.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're in the MMO. And apparently you can't, there's no like, I guess just the story handles it. I guess if they give you a free roam, you don't play forever in a sense. Like at some point with Emily, she goes, okay, I got to log off now. It's been a long time. And doing this, obviously, the developers use as like, this is a trigger for memories, for backstory. And then when you're back in control, Emily's available and they're like, oh, go invite her. Like you have to go to your friends list, invite her. And I thought it was, like you said, it's super meta. Like you're playing this MMO. And you go on quest like any MMO. And as you go, like your real world friends are trying to piece together why you have no memory, what's going on. But or are they? Or did they actually know?
That's the question. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know about you, but from the beginning of the game, I didn't really trust that Sergey guy that was always talking to you.
Yeah, it seemed weird in the beginning that he knew so much about her being an avatar and how to fix her.
Yep.
Like not just he's fascinated and configured like, oh, let me see if I like he seemed to know exactly what to do. He just needed time to do it. And our suspicion was correct. Let's fast forward. So I don't even know how to explain. Do we want to explain who Leah is now or?
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it.
So Leah is a Evotar,
Yes.
which is I guess the imprint of the real person and not the avatar they play as.
Yeah, she is like an AI copy of a woman named Shizuka.
Shizuka, yes.
Yes. So she is basically an extremely advanced AI copy in the body of a MMO avatar that's called an evotar. So she's not somebody playing in an MMO. She's not a real person. But she is not quite life form? Question mark.
Right, which somewhat shocking to us, but I think the game did it. Leah has no idea, and then finds out that she's actually not even real.
Mm-hmm.
Because from Leah's perspective, she thinks she's real, but she's just in this game.
Yeah, because Sergey tells her she's in a coma, and that's why when he logs her out, she doesn't wake up and have a real life. So he tells her she's in a coma to explain that away, and that her memories are coming back when she's sleeping. But they're not her memories, they're Shizuka's memories, sort of, for the most part. And the whole sequence when that gets dropped on her takes place in that Vermilion something place. And I thought that sequence, that whole chapter 7, was brilliantly handled, very well done. And a lot of it, Lee's reaction to it, you got to give it to Radical Fish. Their sprite work on the avatars and the emotions that they managed to get across in those imitating SNES pixel art forms are really, really good. She has a wide range of expression, so even without voice acting, you get who she is.
Right, like a lot of times, like, so as we said, she can say hi from the, like, apparently they explain it that sometimes avatars have issues with speaking when they're new to the game or something. Don't really know if that's a true thing or they just kind of told her that, but she only Sergey programs her to say hi at first, and she doesn't abuse it. She's not like saying like, "Are you hurt? Hi." No, it's like she knows to use it as hi, but you could tell when someone says, "Oh, you can't do that," and like she literally like drops her head, and like you could tell
hi.
she's like like she's upset, like, and then eventually she gets bye, she gets Leah, she gets who, what, where, when, why. Wait. So she's Shizuka, and turns out that Leah is the reason we have this whole issue. So this is when I said Inception, and I said it wasn't like it's a game within a game. You've seen this Inception, right?
Yes.
Remember how, and I can't think of his name, but he hired the team to go in to implant the memory. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of what they did with, so there's a character named Benedict Sidwell, who basically is invested in the Evotar program. And it's something like he wants to take their information, like people, so like kind of like you're going in the game and stealing people's information without them, like it's kind of, it's pretty shady. Like they'll play an MMO and not realizing
it's beyond stealing personal information, because it's like AI copies of a person. It's everything about them inside and out. So it's incredibly shady. And we should also mention the person making these AI Evotar things is Shizuka's brother, Satoshi, who works with Sergey and a couple other characters you meet at the Instatainment group that makes this MMO Crossworlds.
Right. So it's, I'm going to butcher this, Gotham, Ranganathan, Satoshi, Sergey, and Shizuka.
Yes.
I believe Satoshi committed suicide before.
I don't know. Did he commit suicide? I know he's dead. Gotham, if that's how you say his name, commits suicide, like in the game. You see that.
Right. I think, Satoshi's dead before the game, in a sense, but it kind of set off this, and then.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting him to be dead, personally. I was thinking he was out there somewhere.
Right. And then Gotham, he's not dead, but he turns into you do fight him.
And then he kills himself. Right?
Yes. Yeah. At the end, he kind of gives up and kills himself.
It gets very dark.
Yeah, it gets really dark, and then it's about, there's other like issues. the story. We're making it sound convoluted. It's really not. As you go through, it's done in a way. It's clearly
Yes.
explained, and like the shock over discovering Leah's not real, and then seeing Leah finding out that she's not real, and it's just like it, and it's done well. Like, but I was just saying, it's like an MMO. You pick up quests. Like people are like, oh, I can't go into town. Can you get me this armor? Can you find, like, there's one scientist who wants you to like chop plants and get the data from them. Like,
Yes.
it's typical MMO fetch quest.
Yep.
There's just
the
like,
promise is a promise. The guy collecting the broken pieces of gear.
And
Very
then-
much there. Yeah.
and then you have a nemesis, and it's not just the end boss. You have
He's annoying.
Apollo. He's such a douche. Seriously.
Did you beat him all 3 times?
Yes. Also,
I
though,
made sure to.
dueling you have to win 5 out of 9. Really?
Yeah, but also it's PvP. It's another very, very MMO. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
everybody stand back. We're activating PvP mode. These 2 people are going to fight. Everybody get out the way.
Yeah, but best of 9? Like,
Yeah, and he gets increasingly annoying the closer you get to beating him. Of course.
the first go round, I think I beat him 5-1.
Yeah. The
The
first
first,
one
like,
wasn't
time.
bad.
Because he basically thinks you're a cheater.
Yes, that's what he accused you. And he focuses on you because of your class. Again, MMO. Because you're a class that most people don't pick anymore with the Spheromancer.
Kind of a cool
So is
class, though.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I think I'd pick that. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you've got your tanks in there, and then Emily's a pentafist, which I just always think of her as like Yang from Ruby.
yeah. Schneider is. I kept thinking
Some sort of
Reinhardt.
warrior. Yeah.
I kept thinking Reinhardt from Overwatch. The way the helmet was.
Citron's some sort of like range mage.
Yeah, they had the whole
you have a balanced
setup.
party.
Yeah. It was, yeah. I mean, they really. It's not like just you're playing an MMO. Like you were playing. Like, I think there was a good separation between the. Not just, oh, I'm playing a game. Like, when you were playing Cross Worlds, I didn't feel like I'm just playing this game to further along what's going on, because they didn't focus, like, a lot of the stuff going on in the real world, quote unquote, was in the background. So
Yeah,
it wasn't like
for the
this
first
whole,
like 6 chapters.
yeah, it didn't feel like some mini game, like, oh, I just want to get through the MMO part to get to the real world stuff. Like, so
It
I
is the
thought that
world
was
building.
right. And you can, I mean, what level did you finish at?
I
It was
would have to look.
50.
Yeah,
I think it was 58 or something.
Yeah, definitely.
You can
high
get to
50s.
You can get to 99 apparently.
I
That's
mean,
a
I
lot
definitely
of
didn't
grinding.
Yeah, I didn't do all of the quests, mostly because I was just trying to finish. But I mean, and I got most of my XP from when you were able to fight enemies that were a higher level than you. They drop a ton of, like, and you go, especially in the late game, chapter 7, I think I leveled up like 5 times in less than an hour. Like, it went fast.
Yeah, and they have like the combo system where if you chain kills,
and you get better
your rank
drops.
goes up and you get better drops, it was cool at first, but there were times where I just wanted to finish, because you can't heal unless you take like a sandwich.
Yeah, I would hit the skip button sometimes.
Because I'd chain it and like keep climbing. I'm like, do I keep going or do I just take a break?
Yeah, there was definitely, especially early game when I wasn't that good at it. I didn't have great gear. So around when you hit the snow level, Bergen, and there was those evil snowmen.
Yes.
Sometimes just to heal, I would end the chain and like run away.
Yeah, it was almost like is it Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, I Am Setsuna, where you're healed back to full out of combat?
Yeah. A
Right.
lot of games.
Yeah, a lot of games start doing that now, like, especially when they have that visual, like, you can see the enemies or avoid them.
Yeah.
So that was cool, but and there's all the characters are so fleshed out. Like, I mean, you mentioned a couple, but there's Leah, there's Emily,
Mhm.
Toby, Citron. Emily was the Emilionator.
I'm not going for it.
Lucas was Schneider. Apollo. Was it Jorn? It was Apollo's buddy.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's kind of like Germany or something.
Then there was a couple NPCs that you saw a lot of. And then there was the Blue Avatar, who was your real nemesis.
Yes. And he's there from the beginning.
Yes, he kind of sets it off saying, you don't belong outside Crossworlds.
Yes.
But it added to the mystery because when you start the game, he kind of recognizes Leah.
Yeah.
But doesn't know why.
Well, he hones in on her because they're like, he's not supposed to be out here on the boat. This is outside of the game. He shouldn't be here.
Yeah, and it's like, how can he fly? How can he use his powers? So I found out how he can use his powers. I was watching a live stream, an old archived one, and the developers accidentally let slip information. Apparently, the designer is an ancient.
Oh.
So, Crossworlds takes place on Shadun. I think Shadun. And it was home to the ancients.
You know that set me off, right? You know that immediately I started being like, you can't, no, you didn't. We are not because not only were they the ancients, that you have to migrate the path of the ancients. And I'm like, FF7, FF7, FF7.
So, but he recognizes Leah because I guess Shizuka made her avatar, kind of, because Shizuka's avatar in game looks similar. She doesn't have the horns that Leah has. The hair is darker, but it's kind of similar.
You can see the resemblance for sure.
You can once you because when you start the game, you play as
that's what I assume.
You start the game as Shizuka, and then there's no real 10 years later or something. Like, you just assume
this is
it.
It.
At first I was like, oh, I'm still that person. Like, you don't realize, then you realize oh no, this is a different person right away.
Yeah. They definitely, it's like a false assumption that you make, but it's sort of right.
Right. Like, you keep, the game keeps you guessing because it's so meta, and it really is like Inception. There's different, oh, I figured it out. Let's go a layer deeper.
This meta narrative is actually why I bought the game. Because I knew that the setting of the game's narrative was a fake MMO before I bought the game, and I saw the cover characters, like the blue hair and the black hair. I assumed they were linked. And I was interested in it because actually a book I really liked as a kid, so you keep referencing Inception, a book I really liked as a kid is called Heir Apparent by Vivian Van Velde, who is a YA author. And Heir Apparent is this girl goes to an arcade for her birthday and plays a VR game, and somebody tampers with the machine and she gets stuck in VR in an RPG. And it's very similar. They have similar sorts of humor. So I was attracted to the idea of the story because it brought back fond memories of this book I had read as a kid.
Ah, okay. Yeah, the draw for me, I don't even think I knew the story, the graphical style.
The pixel art.
The Super Nintendo styled art is some of my favorite.
But this is.
I always talk about Final Fantasy VI, but Chrono Trigger's definitely in the top 5, maybe probably top 3 RPGs. So it's got that style, and I had no idea. And I've played World of Warcraft for so long, I didn't even know there was an MMO component until I played this, and I'm like, oh.
The artwork in this game, the sprite work in this game is gorgeous. Gorgeous. Like I said, the characters are so expressive, which is, it's an accomplishment what they did with the visual style of this game.
And it's, it's weird, we mentioned that 2012, it took it took 6 years because it was on PC first, but any other game that took that long, people will be beating the door down, complaining, why did it take so long? I'm glad it took them this
They're
long.
technically still making it. They're still
Yeah,
working
they
on
are.
this constantly. They had a lot of updates to do when it first hit the Switch. I guess there was a bunch of technical issues. Obviously, I didn't play it right away. But yeah, they're constantly working on this thing.
Yeah.
This game was in early access, and from what I read, like a lot of it just wasn't available for a long time. People were playing like pieces of this game.
Yeah, I read something about that only parts were there's actually NPCs that aren't even in the game anymore. They were in different versions.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. This has been a labor of love for sure from them.
So you finally figured out the whole story, kind of. Turns out this crude businessman wants to steal the whole. It's an Avatar program where they were going to develop. I guess they were working on it, and Leah is actually she was the first one.
Yes, she's the one where where the title of the game comes in. The thing that enables Evotar is the CrossCode, is what they call it. That makes it all work.
So there's basically you have to to get the good ending versus the bad ending, you meet a so I didn't realize this at first till I wrote down my notes. This NPC called Ivan Vesterov, and I'm Vesterovich, and I'm like, Ivan investor, son of a bitch.
They do have some tongue in cheek in this game, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Like, the first time I had, like, an out loud reaction besides the Track of the Ancients is when you get to Bergen Village, and they tell you have to learn the 4 elements, and it's a monk, and it looks like he's from Avatar.
Yeah.
I literally put the console down. I was like, how dare you?
So you meet Ivan Vesterovich. He gives you a Turing test to determine how human you are.
Yes.
I failed it. I don't know if I wasn't paying attention.
No, I failed it too on my first try.
So if you fail it, when the end of the game comes, basically Leah has a redemption arc in a sense because she's basically blamed for this. It's like she's the first. Everything got messed up. Satoshi died. It's all her fault. Blah blah blah. You kind of like have this redemption arc. You face the designer. You face the designer a second time. You face the designer a third time when he's that strange. He's basically a Mega Man villain at that point. He's like the giant elephant, that humanoid elephant.
Some of the enemies in this game, like the big snail too, with like the infinite HP.
Yeah. Sergey tries to convince the board to let the avatars continue. But if you have the bad ending, they delete all the data.
Yes, so basically your protagonist dies. She's gone. Dies.
I actually read because I was gonna play through, but I was like, this is kind of a lengthy game. If you get the good ending, it actually kicks you back to chapter 10.
Yep.
So you could replay the end of the game or skip it. Like, I guess you have the option then to skip it.
Yeah, and then you can just do post-game content.
So if you get the good ending, the avatars are allowed to, the program, I guess, goes live in a sense, and it continues.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think they did a phenomenal. I mean, as convoluted as the whole, like I said, it sounds convoluted, but it really wasn't. It was done well. It's easy to follow. It's harder to explain it.
Yeah, anytime you have something that's super meta, it's hard to explain it because it's easier to experience it. Basic points are, there's a character, you think she's playing an MMO, you think she's somebody's avatar, she's not, she finds out she's not real, you have to go up against the big bad corporation, and that's really the end of the day, and you're setting the backdrop of all of this as an MMO, a virtual, made-up MMO that you're playing within. I think that pretty much caps it. But I will say one thing. So I was very attracted to the concept of the story, like I told you. That's what brought me to the game. I do think there was a little bit of a weird pacing in here, and this might have just come from the drawn out development because, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the heavy hitting stuff does not, like chapters 7 through 10 is very different than chapters 1 through 6. So you spend a good 20 hours, I would say, before you start getting into the whole Lee isn't a real person, all that stuff. So you do spend a lot of time playing within that MMO.
Yeah, it almost leans into the MMO trope where,
Yeah.
as someone who's played multiple MMOs for 20, 30, 40 hours, you're just leveling, grinding.
Yes. And they played into that.
Story almost doesn't matter until a
Yeah.
certain point, and it's like,
Because it's
which
level
is-
gated too. They play into that. You have to
Right.
do certain dungeons and get to certain levels to get into later areas. It is
I did
very
like
much,
you mentioned the dungeons. I love, like,
I love
they
the
were-
puzzles in this game.
they were like, and I liked how, not that it mattered, but like Emily would like basically challenge you who could,
You can beat her too.
right, and like it was kind of cool having this banter, like this. It's a fully fleshed out MMO, but like I think I don't want people to get scared off by MMO because a lot of people hear that and just like, no.
You're not actually playing an MMO.
Right.
That's okay.
And I think it's really just an excellent RPG. Like mechanically, it plays like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, like I Am Setsuna, like it plays well, like all the in-game mechanics. Like I feel the MMO portion is more for the backdrop of the story.
It's the setting.
And then
yeah.
there's like the little things like whenever Emily logs out or you log out, you have to invite her back to a party. Like you don't even have to invite her to a party.
Yeah, you can do it single. You can play on your own for a bit if you want. There are certain parts of the story where you're thrown into a party.
But I think it was cool how they incorporated it but didn't make it, because it's not a multiplayer game.
Yes,
So
we should clarify that because we talked about what the setting is, we talked about what the story is, we talked about what the game is about. This is a single player action RPG puzzle platformer.
Yes.
Fair. That takes place in the theoretical world of an MMO.
Yeah, I didn't mention the platform. I liked how the platforming was done.
Yes,
it's
the
hard
platforming
to do,
is part of the puzzles.
It's hard to do platforming from a top-down perspective
without a jump button.
Right, like so Leah will automatically jump once she hits a ledge.
If it's only one step up.
Well, no, she'll jump either way, whether she lands.
Yeah, I mean, like going vertically.
Oh, like right. She won't just fall to her, but like she'll attempt to jump. And the way they did it, like any RPG, there's a certain pattern, or like not shortcut, but route you have to go. If you don't, you fall, you're down, and you got to circle all around. And there was even a part, I forgot, there was a quest where basically, as they're like an MMO, as they introduced the jump concept, what to do, and it goes, well, I'll give you a hint, it's not in this area, you have to go a bit west of this. So basically it's telling you got to leave and circle back around to get to this puzzle. Mm-hmm. So like they use the MMO not as a crutch, but as the solution to kind of like that, like leaned on the no, you have to leave the area, you're gonna have to come back around to figure out the puzzle.
And then even bringing the meta into that, there were some very early missions where the guy's like, I'm trying to test to make sure there's no bugs in this area. Can you platform this route for me in a certain amount of time?
Yeah. And then the puzzles with, so as a Spearomancer, we mentioned that she basically, what is she throws a blitz ball? No Final Fantasy.
No.
No, she can throw a charged up shot, which can bounce off walls. And a lot of puzzles, it wouldn't just be bouncing off one wall, like there'd literally be, you'd have to line up a 90-degree angle so it went off in the other direction, hit that at the right angle, bounced up again. I mean, once you figure out what the patterns are, which is super easy.
Some of the later puzzles get challenging though, like especially when you have to have timing involved. Like you have to freeze this block and then melt that and then move this around and then you have to shove something out of the way. There was some timing and figuring things out, especially once you got elements involved in these puzzles. They were satisfyingly challenging as you got into it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a new, I don't know, it's not a new genre. It's a single player MMO.
It's a mashup. It is a mashup.
It really is. It's you don't I love RPGs where you don't enter combat screens. Like, I'm not saying I don't like it, because obviously I talked Final Fantasy VI to death. I don't mind
It is
that.
definitely an older
But
thing at this point.
And a lot of the combat I felt you didn't have to do. Especially like when you go into the Bergen Trail, like when I first went through, I must have spent an hour and a half. I killed everything. Like I got my S rating like in the first section, like, because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep going to see what happens, and you just keep going, and like you can just, and I just wasn't. And then at a certain point, I'm like, okay, no, I'm skipping these mobs. I don't need to kill them.
Most of them too aren't even aggressive. There's like one enemy type per environment that's even aggressive. Most of them you have to start the fight.
I hated those in the Bergen Trail. There was the hedgehog, there was the cow / bull, and then there was that groundhog ferret thing. The thing that kept buried, that kept burrowing and then popped out to throw.
Oh, those were in the Autumn's Rise area too. They had headphones on.
Yes.
Those things are annoying as hell.
Which you have a range attack, but like I'd take on like 5 hedgehogs and there'd be one of those and like you couldn't hit it. Like every time, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, those are annoying. I hated those. I hated those, and I hated the other the ones that burrow. The like shark things that you start encountering in the Maroon Valley, and you have to stun them when they're above ground.
You do have a party. Like first, you just have Emily, and it's cool that she'll attack. And it's nice because she's strictly melee, so a lot of times in the beginning, like you'd like break an enemy, and you'd see the numbers just fly off. She'd like put a beating on stuff, which was kind of cool.
The AI, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they would know or be set to do things like break enemies, because something we haven't talked about yet in this game, it's all about enemy weaknesses. If you capitalize on enemy weaknesses, the combat becomes a lot easier. Rather than just trying to bust a way through something. You want to break things. You want to, like all the boss fights have like a trick to them and stuff like that, but so do the regular enemy. And the AI usually plays into that. Like they're not just like pounding away, smashing X or whatever. They're doing things like breaking. Like when that sand shark would come up, I'd usually just wait for one of my party members to shoot it down.
But even early on, the bull, cow, whatever, if you learn that it charged and it hit a wall, you could. The only thing was, a lot of times I'd be too far away because I'd be spamming the spear, and it's the spear wall, and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna get back in time. But Emily would be right there, and just so you could like, or you couldn't hit it from the front. You'd see 0, 0, 0, 0 popping off, but then when it would break, essentially, you could do that, which was. I liked how they interacted with Emily would tell the story about growing up, that she used to farm, like she'd milk them and like you just.
And she's terrified
them.
of bugs. She's got a personality. I also love how late in the game it is. She's like, wait, you can't talk? It happens in like chapter freaking 6.
Like she just, the whole time you're just like, hi, nod, Leah.
She's like, I knew you were quiet, but what? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they did a phenomenal job here. It's such a fun game.
Yep. You can tell, like I read up on it. Definitely it's had its bumps along the way. Like, this was a long time coming to get a completed product in the state that it's in now. But that means right now is a very good time to play it on, no matter what platform you're on.
I mean, other than what I mentioned about the sound, which it could have just been because I kept putting in rest mode, this is a sound game. I didn't really have any issues along the way. I didn't crash at all. Not that that's indicative
I
of
did
anything.
have some frame issues here and there on the Switch, particularly. Like when things got really chaotic, if I tried to bring up a menu or something.
Oh, yeah, I had that on the Switch when I played. If you bring up the item,
Like,
the
yeah,
the
the
radio
shortcut
menu
thing,
in
yeah.
combat, it would like
It's
everything would drop to a crawl till it opened. But it was usually only the first time I did it.
Yeah, for me, it was only in super hectic moments. Like, I used that wheel in combat, obviously, to heal all the time, and it was fine 90% of the time, you know?
I mean, at the very least, like everything would kind of come to a grinding halt. So it wasn't like your enemy was still moving.
Yeah, it's not like you were singularly fucked. I never had the game crash. It loads really fast. Like, fast travel is smooth.
It's actually fast. It's
yeah.
like Ghost.
It's like Ghost.
I'm surprised they didn't nerf it.
Same scale as Ghost, too. Same idea.
So, favorite boss? The bosses were cool.
The bosses were cool.
Did you have a favorite boss?
I don't know if I have a single favorite boss. I really did like beating the shit out of that giant snail. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I like that.
And you just get increasingly OP in that fight, so that's fun.
I mean, there's a good number of.
I like that you have in-game trophies for this stuff.
Yeah.
Did you look at that?
And there's also, speaking of in-game, like anything you missed story-wise, like it's basically like there's an encyclopedia, like so you could see like your friends, like who they are, like their class, like everything's in there.
Yep. Did you see your stats? Did you look at your stats menu?
Yeah.
And how the this stats menu has 165 stats at it, and then it says, and here is a random number. The game has humor, and I like that it has humor, but then it gets incredibly freaking dark.
Yeah. And then it goes into some philosophical discussions about like, do clones have feelings?
Yeah. It doesn't go full
rights,
but it does have that, like, all right, is AI a person? Is someone created a life form? Like, it kind of goes there and does all that stuff. Meanwhile, people are committing suicide and all that stuff in the background.
Yeah, it got dark. But no, the DLC hopefully comes out. It'd probably go to PC first. Yeah, I had looked up earlier. As of July, there was a new quest was coming out for PC. Apparently they made a promise. I guess when it came out for console, they'd release new PC content.
I feel like most indie devs, especially smaller ones, it's easier for them just to develop on PC, so console's always going to come later.
Yeah, I mean, the ones I've spoken to before, I think it's like a dev kit is much easier to come by. With PC, there's no, like I forgot the name, which one it was, but had said like they actually hired a company to port it to Switch.
Yeah.
Like it's just easier programming on PC. Right over to it translates easier to then testing it right there instead of worrying about.
Yeah, it usually comes down to funding too. Like a lot of times, like they'll be like, okay, we're gonna make this game, it's gonna be on Steam or whatever, and then if the game catches on and gets funding is when it gets ported over. I think that's like a Darkest Dungeon type of situation too, where.
Plus, I would imagine if you put it on Steam, early access, and a demo, you get the feedback, but like. I would imagine, hey, Nintendo, here's a demo of our game. And it's like, oh, like, are you going to patch a demo? You don't patch a demo I mean, I'm sure it's happened before. Like if there's like something game breaking, the demo doesn't really work. But like I would imagine, like on Steam, you can see on the Steam pages why they're in early access, and like they can fix anything like that. Like,
And Steam has a great community for early
Oh, yeah.
access, whereas consoles don't have that same feel or that same sense of community, that same group of people who are like understand why isn't this game complete? Why is there problems here? And they know that like they know what they're in for, and they know how valuable the feedback is.
yeah, it's so weird because it's not like PC just has so many more players necessarily. It's just yeah, I mean, you just don't see, but it could also be it's a process of early access is easier on Steam.
Yep. Supergiant's done all of that, not just on Steam though. Supergiant's games, I believe they've all been, I don't know about Bastion, but they've all been in early access on PC first. Although with Hades, it was on Epic before it was on Steam.
I mean, I always support betas, and I think early access is great because you want the feedback. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want the game to launch with so many bugs. Like, not that you don't hear about Steam games launch or even Epic games, like PC games in general launching with bugs. I feel like you hear more about there's no day one patches on PC because if it's in early access, they've been doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, like a game like Monster Hunter on PC, I'm sure there was a day one patch, but
Yeah. I also, that's the size of the dev too. AAA, I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of AAA studios are afraid to do early access because they're afraid to show the game before it's complete. But then they'll release it as a mess on day one and hit you with huge patches after the fact. Indie devs are more likely to want the feedback more than they fear the penalty of putting out an incomplete game.
right. I mean, sometimes it backfires. Or like Torchlight 3, for example, just got review bombed on Steam. But I think there was a misconception over, like they clearly stated this is online only right now. You cannot play single player. And people were like giving negative reviews, like I have to be online, matchmaking sucks. It's like, well, they kind of said that. But yeah, I mean, and like you said, for indie devs, it's so much easier to, not that it's just, oh, hey, Steam, I have a game, and they're like, okay. But I think that I've heard that's, I mean, at least Sony's dev kit is just, I know like PlayStation and Vita have different dev kits altogether, which is just a nightmare. I don't know how Nintendo is for applying. I know Sony's notorious been bad about certification. Like after the game is on, like working and like to get the certification. But yeah, I mean for indies, I mean PC is, it's unfortunate that you don't get simultaneous launches. Like PC owners have had this game for 2 years now.
You do get some simultaneous launches, but those are generally not new indie studios or young indie studios, and they've got funding behind them either because they're being published by somebody like a Focus Home, or they had a huge
Devolver. They have a bigger, they have a bigger, or you'll see like a lot of like PC and Switch.
Yeah.
And then PlayStation set down the line, or I mean, you see a lot of PC, Xbox, or stuff like that.
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to experience and funding.
I went to the Radical Fish's website to look what was coming, and they said water is still deadly. Did you ever knock? Sometimes when I had too many enemies, I would knock one or two into the water to get a breather, because they would.
I would do it a lot by accident.
Oh, I definitely did it by accident, but sometimes if I tried to plan it, I would knock one away just so I can kind of get away for a second, get a breather.
My early game go-to, I had one of those, so you have like special moves for everything. You have a special range move, you have special melee moves, you have special block moves, you have special dodge moves. I had one where if I just held block and then held my special down, it was though it just like radiated a circle of energy and pushed everything away from you. And I would use that to push stuff into water because there was a mission where you had to push dirty frobbits into water
Yes.
to clean them off before you could
Yes.
kill them. But there was actually a point where I was accidentally knocking stuff. So remember the firefly enemy moth
Mhm.
things where you had to like shoot into a thing so you could shoot them at their level?
Yeah.
And there was ones like laser moths that would like shoot these like big FU beams of fire. It's like the end of Avatar: The Last
I like the
Airbender
big
during
FU
Sozin's
beams.
comment. They're big FU beams. Well, those particular like green moths, in the corner of the room, it's like 2 pixels wide. There's a little fire pit, and I kept knocking one of them into the fire pit so it would get unstunned and start attacking again. So it was like I hadn't done anything.
Yeah, they really, I mean, the combat was definitely varied. I mean, it wasn't just a button mashing. And I will say, for the time I spent on Switch, and I'm going to regret this when Moose finds out and says, told you so, I actually had hand cramping because of the whole, because you're aiming and shooting with the same hand. And I felt at times,
What controller were you using?
I just play in handheld.
See, I had trouble playing this game in handheld. So I played either on the Pro controller or the SN30 Plus Pro that has the handles from 8BitDo.
Yeah, I didn't even try the other 8-bit do just because I don't like that 8-bit do for games that use ZL and ZR because they're side by side versus back to forth, back to front. Playing with the 360 controller on PC though was definitely just the way it was set up. But this was like the first game, but it's really because you aimed with the same hand. I mean, even though it was different, it just felt after a while like, especially when you're running like a long chain, it's like, okay, I'm done.
See, I didn't have problems with hand cramping in this game. The only games that really give me problems with hand cramping are really intense platforming. So like Celeste, I had arthritis for a week. So.
But no, this I think we both give it a thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about it because I don't know how I would have reviewed this game because I don't even know how I would describe the story without spoilers because I don't even know what I would describe this as. An action platforming RPG.
Yeah, it's a puzzle platforming action adventure RPG. Single player, set within the fictional world of a fictional MMO. And I would talk about the setup of the story. I talk about how you're an avatar, you have amnesia, you're playing in this world called Crossworld, all that stuff. I would talk about like the first couple chapters. But if I wanted to review the game as a whole, I don't think I would either say warning spoilers, but since it's not a super well-known game, I would probably just talk about the way the ending made me feel rather than the details of
Right. And I think as we mentioned, the real plot doesn't get uncovered till at least 20 hours in.
Yeah. How long did it take you to play this?
I think I was at under 35.
Yeah, I was right around 30, and I didn't do all the side quests. I only did like I liked doing the Promise is a Promise side quest for that dad character, stuff like that.
I'm about 3 or 4 hours in the Switch version. So I'm at I beat Apollo in the Switch version. PC though, I'm done. It's actually on Game Pass now. It's on Steam. I know, they can briefly talk about it next week. Matt played on PS4 or is playing, and Moose, I know he put the bulk of his time, about 20 hours so far, into the Switch version.
Yep.
I mean, this is a big thing for me. The Switch version is great because it's the type of game you can just stop. You can save pretty much whenever. I mean, unless it's an actual story beat, once you pause it, it comes up to save it. And it's something you could pick up easily and just, I mean, I don't know if you could really mainline this. I think that's. I think you'd be under-geared.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
I
know.
feel like toward the end, you'd get your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
Unless, which we didn't mention because I assume neither of us used it. The game actually has
Assist
assist.
mode. Yeah, I didn't mess around with that, so I don't know exactly what it feels like. But it's nice.
So
that
I tried it on Switch. What's cool is you can limit the damage you take, but you can't. So you won't get your ass handed to you, but you can't basically buff yourself. So it's not like an assist where you're killing everything instantly. You can. So if you're struggling with combat, it'll take a lot longer for them to kill you. Like the incoming damage will be less. Like the puzzles move slower. But it's not like you crank it up so like you one-shot everything.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
it's kind of nice how you still get to experience it, but kind of it's almost like it just slows down the game in a sense.
Yeah. Also, in terms of the game's difficulty, at least for the first half of it, so long as I found that so long as you explore thoroughly and you're opening those chests, like you can see it, but you're not sure how to get to it at first, the game gives you sufficient gear that you don't need to worry so much about being like super under leveled or under equipped.
Yeah.
But the later game, you will need to be trading and buying some gear so you don't get destroyed. But for the most part, anytime I was getting my ass handed to me, it's because I was being an idiot. Like I didn't like if I hadn't caught on to the trick of the fight yet, or I was just trying to go in too aggressive and I wasn't playing smart, or I was mad at Apollo and like just trying to smack him in the face.
Oh, there was plenty of times I pulled too much because I would literally miss my throw, hit 3 hedgehogs behind the target, and it's like, oh, shit's on. No, I mean, but I feel like if this is your type of game, you're not rushing, you're going to explore. Like the environment kind of just sets up for that. Like
It is as much a puzzle platformer as it is an action RPG. So you don't want to skip half the game.
no. Yep, I definitely would recommend it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the other thing is, it is very RPG. We've talked about this a lot, but it has all the tropes of an RPG. Like it's got the snow level and all that stuff that like people make fun of as always being in RPGs. But it doesn't. And as much as a lot of games try to emulate that SNES era vibe, it does not feel stale. This feels fresh. It feels good. It feels as equally upbeat as it does serious. It is in every way possible, from the genre to the mechanics to the mood of the game. It is very much a mashup, and it's not a mashup that you've really seen before.
No. And I'd like to see more from them.
Yeah. Not more. I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd like to see something. What other gears they have? What they could do that's different, but still retains a signature of the studio.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love more of CrossCode, but I think I'd like to see a new IP.
A new project of some sort, and that like, you don't know what an indie dev's signature is until you see what they do with their second project.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, this has been successful, so good for them. I mean, long time coming. I mean, 6 years is a long time for an indie dev. It already has a PC following, and I think it's sold well so far.
What's the overall like rating of this on like Steam?
Well, I will look the Steam rating. It's
just curious to see how favorable it is. Metacritic, it's in the 80s, it looks like.
Steam, very positive, 8,043 reviews. I mean, it says very positive, so. Steam reviews are weird to go by because if you don't, obviously, if someone doesn't review it, it doesn't come up. But Recent reviews 160, and they were also very positive.
Good. Yeah. I'm looking at Metacritic, and it's impressive. This game's like in the low to mid 80s, which is good for an indie game.
Mm-hmm.
Or any game, really. 80.
And I think the plus, it's only $20.
Is it?
It's 20 on Steam, 28 with the soundtrack, which is really good.
Yeah, the music, the sound in this game is very good. Diverse music for all the different environments.
I mean, IGN Japan gave it a 9.5. Way Too Many Games gave it a 9.5. Rock Paper Shotgun said a truly great game you could devote 117 hours to. Jesus.
I think the lowest score I see is GameSpot, which is like a 6 out of 10. Mostly it's 8 out of 10 and above.
I'd be curious. I'll have to read that, why it's a 6.
I also be curious how long ago they reviewed it, like how recent that score is, because obviously this game is not what it was a year, 2 year, 3, 4 years ago.
I mean, I could see, like, because the 20 hours is where the story really picks up, some people might have an issue with that.
That is, like, that was my one critique of the story earlier, is the pacing. It might be, if somebody doesn't get caught up in the game mechanics, the fact that the story ramps up 20 plus hours in, also it's 20 hours for us, but it could take you longer, for sure.
And I think the thing is, it teases you early that something's amiss, that there's more than just this MMO world. Like, you get that, like, right after Apollo, you get that memory with all the shadows where you can't really tell, like, obviously there's something going on.
Or even just starting the game is Shizuka.
Yeah. So the fact that it does take that long to build up, but I mean,
I enjoyed it.
I really did.
It. I would recommend this.
Yeah,
I will probably keep playing it for a little bit, picking at it when I feel like it, going back, doing stuff I haven't already done.
Definitely. I'll probably finish it on Switch now that I finished it on PC.
Yeah, it's a decent length game for this type of thing. Like, I would say 30 to 40 hours depending on who you are.
Yeah, I'd say 50 might be the average.
Really? You think that long?
Maybe closer to 40. 40 is probably.
Yeah, because you and I were both low 30s.
Yeah. I mean, there were times I completely went off the beaten path. It's like, just kept going. Oh, there's a whole pack of enemies. Oh, another whole pack.
Yeah, I played this a little bit faster, I think, for the purposes of this than I would have normally, but not, like, let's say I finished this game in, I want to say, like, 29 hours and 30 minutes. At my normal pace, it probably would have been 35 hours.
I mean, I chopped down pretty much every tree in CrossCode.
Oh, I killed all the plants.
There's no plants left.
There are no plants left.
I've ended the MMO. I've killed all vegetation. It's done.
There are no plants left. There's no penguins left. There's no hedgehogs left. They're all dead.
Oh, fuck those hedgehogs. Started spinning up, and I'm like, no.
Oh. Those hedgehogs are your introduction, though, to the quests. Like, it's like, okay, you have to go to a place where it's raining, and there's a lot of hedgehogs, and you have to kill them all. And then you get your first mini-boss.
And, I mean, it's that trope of, it's an MMO. Kill 10, return to me. Kill all these plants, return to me with data.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely a really fun game. And we'll definitely get to hear Moose and Matt's opinions next week.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they thought.
The big news, well, before we get into the big news, which will have happened when this comes out, is there anything else of note happened last week? Well, we did get the Xbox prices.
We did. That was
officially, which were leaked and then confirmed, which I gotta give it to Microsoft. Using that meme of the eyes was like perfect. Like, So Xbox Series S is $299. Xbox Series X is $499.
With payment plans too, where you don't have to pay those costs up front.
Right. And for those people who are doing the math and saying, but you pay more money, both come with Game Pass Ultimate, which includes EA Play now,
Yes.
which is the rebranding of I forgot the name already.
Live?
Whatever EA's thing was. It wasn't EA Play.
It was something else.
Oh, EA Access.
Access.
Yes.
Um,
So you're getting, so it's $25 a month for the S, plus Game Pass Ultimate's $15, but that's folded in, or $35 plus the 15. I think it did the math. You save about $60-$70 over the 2 years. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, hey, you don't have to put down 300 or 500, and you save and you save the price of a game.
And when you think about it being this year, and a lot of people not being in the financial situation they were a year ago,
right?
It's smart, and I would hope Sony is ready to do something similar where they avoid the upfront cost of, say, a $500 console, if they can.
Yeah. So November 10th, both come out.
Did you see all the conspiracy though about the Xbox stuff? About like, was it an intentional leak? Did Sony play them into a corner? All this stuff. Like my tinfoil hat, I had to take it out of storage because I read some stuff last week on like, people are really bored waiting for news about these consoles because the level of conspiracy about all of this.
We'll get to it, but yeah. There's a conspiracy theory about the big news for Sony. But so November 10th, we get both systems. I think the S is a great value if you don't own a one in any version. Because I was talking to Jeff and he has an Xbox One. He doesn't feel the S is a big enough jump, which I don't think it is.
It's not. It's for people who don't have a One, for sure, and don't want to pay the full price of an X because it's not the primary.
To be honest, if I wasn't getting a PS5 and I didn't have a PC, the S is, because Game Pass alone is, it's just phenomenal.
Yes.
I'm not getting two consoles now. The thing is, I prefer console, like controller games on the TV. Like as someone who has Game Pass on my PC, yes, I can hook an HDMI cord up. I mean, I can probably get a bigger monitor and sit further back, but I prefer. So, I mean, the S is a phenomenal.
Yeah, it's got me thinking about Xbox. But my thing is, I have two hangups. So it's not a day one thing for me. PS5 is going to be my day one purchase. I'm thinking about the S, but I want to see reviews because I am a little suspicious about some of the things with the RAM and stuff and how it's going to handle some of these games, especially next-gen games, when it isn't much of a step up from the One, especially thinking about multi-platform games, so not games that are being built by Xbox for Xbox platforms. So I'm a little concerned about that. And then just in general, I would need exclusives. Game Pass isn't going to sell me. I would need exclusives as a reason to get an Xbox, and then I would also enjoy Game Pass as well. So that's where I'm at, because I'm not set up to play on PC, so I do miss some games, unfortunately. But I think I definitely, if it reviews well, it performs well, I could see myself down the road, especially if they pull out some good IP, some new IP from them, getting an S as a secondary console.
Yeah, I mean, Game Pass is like a demo reel. I mean, $300 obviously sounds like a lot too, but over the course of time, like, I mean, you'd be saving, I mean, outside the monthly cost, I mean, the amount of games, like I have Game Pass. I've never played a game to completion, but I've bought games I've tried on Game Pass.
Yeah. I
And
also
it's not just the demo type, like I say demo, but that's obviously not even appropriate. Like I could play a demo on Steam, but it's designed to be a demo. Like the Game Pass games are the complete version. There's no
They are.
stripped down. It's the version that if you bought it, you would get it. Like
Yeah. I'm also at the point though where my game library, if I want it, I pretty much have it. So it
Right.
would be just future games that I would be interested in. But for right now, most of those games that I'm really excited for are either PlayStation exclusives or Nintendo exclusives that haven't been mentioned in years.
right. The one big criticism I heard, and I could be wrong if I don't get this completely accurate, but the hard drive space, it's a terabyte, and there's proprietary tech behind it, so expanding may be
Difficult.
problematic. And someone pointed out, I mean, as someone who has a 4 terabyte external, I don't really have this issue, but you buy an Xbox Series, either one, you get 1 terabyte. I mean, obviously you don't need to load all your games because you can't play all your games at once, but you kind of want to load as much up because you'd like variety.
You don't have to worry about installing a game when you want to go play it.
Right, because games, even if you have a super fast internet, like
it takes a bit.
Well, I mean, some games are like in excess of 100 gigabytes. You're not gonna, if you decide, oh, I'll play this today, you ain't downloading that and playing it today. Like that's a massive
There's
game.
some games where like it's randomly like, why did God of War just install in 2 minutes? But then you go in and you put something like Fall Guys took 25 minutes to download for me,
Right.
and it's Fall Guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully, I really hope they don't have I don't think they'll have a Vita issue where like you still, like the 64 gigabyte card is still over $100, which is absurd. But I hope that's not I mean, I don't know if you could just plug an external, but these next gen systems kind of require SSDs to optimize. So
yeah, depending on what you're playing though. So like, let's say you're using the S as like a Game Pass machine, and you're not necessarily playing all next gen games. You'd be fine. Like the PlayStation 5, the way they described it is, yes, PS5 games need to go on the SSD, but you can put PS4 games on a hard drive.
Right. So moving on to the PlayStation 5. Yesterday, because when this goes on, is the PlayStation 5 showcase, which if we don't talk about prices and dates on Monday, our next episode,
that's the only thing the only way to screw this up is if they don't. That's the only thing they can do to screw this up is if they don't do that, and I don't think they're going to do that.
So
I don't think
so now that Xbox is out in the wild, my guess is we're definitely the release date's probably a week later, which was rumored because the rumored release date for the Xbox was the 10th. So
I've heard the 20th for PS5. So it's the week later, but instead of the Tuesday, it's the Friday.
That makes sense. So so the 10th is the 10th is a Tuesday. So
the 20th is a Friday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yep.
Either way, I expect a week overlap. What's your final guess on prices? I'm going 4-5. I don't think they do 3-5.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 4 and 5, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they do something super shady, sneaky, and it's like slightly less than that. Not a full 100 less, but like 350, 450, or something in between those ranges.
I mean, that would be nice for my pocket, but yeah. 4-5.
I think 4-5 is most realistic.
I think we get a launch lineup, which
I mean, we already got.
I would bet money it's Ratchet and Clank,
Miles Morales. Maybe Demon Souls.
I wouldn't be surprised at Demon Souls because I thought I saw a rumor last week that it was rated.
I've seen it rated in multiple countries. I think it was one of the ones targeting holiday 2020. The only thing that I can say for sure is not in terms of the first party studio games we know they've already revealed. The only thing I can say for sure is not going to be a launch game is Horizon.
Right. No, I think that was just showcasing what we would see. I think it'd be too soon. I think
some people are getting their hopes up though, and I'm like,
I think Horizon's launching on its own. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think Horizon. It's if it was Horizon, if it was the first Horizon, and you want that as a system launcher, but I think the fact that it's a sequel, you're not going to see Horizon launch near anything. You're not going to see the next God of War launch, and I guarantee when the next God of War comes out, no other company, unless accidental, launches a title anywhere near that, like thinking they can, like, I just, so.
It's not going to happen. But no, Insomniac is going to launch the PS5.
Yeah. We could see a few others. We're not, well, we already knew this, but we're not seeing Kina.
Yeah, they got bumped.
They got bumped, which is fine.
It's also a smaller game. It's an indie game. I'd rather they make it a quality game for their first big outing on the PS5.
My big thing, and I don't know if they'll even clarify it, I'd like to unplug my hard drive, plug it right into the PS5, and...
Do you have a Seagate? Like, is it a Sony sanctioned hard drive?
No, I have a Western Digital passport. Sony's been good with that. Like, it's not, I mean, if it doesn't work because it needs to be formatted, I'd be okay with that. I get that. Like, that's more of a system thing. Like, it makes sense.
I think when it's formatted,
that the PS5 would have to format to, like the hard drive would have to be formatted to, so to match it.
Whenever you format that external hard drive, whatever's on it gets deleted.
Right. Luckily, like it happened to you, my save data still goes to the storage. So in that case, I would just upload it.
I would like to see cross-gen saves. Like, I would like them to see them do something with saves across these two.
Right. And then speaking of cross-gen, a lot of games are getting free upgrades. A lot of games that are not named Control are getting free upgrades.
That was terrible.
Although, you know what? I don't know if it's Remedy, if it's 505. I'm not one of those people who, I'm not going to boycott 505 or Remedy.
I don't know.
But did you see that they accidentally upgraded people and then reversed it?
Yep. After saying they couldn't do that.
Now that you're saying you went from it can't work till you did it and now you're taking it back, I'd buy it if it didn't work. But the fact that you did it already and took it back.
Proved it worked.
So these are confirmed. Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yep, which is also, they moved the release date up with that to match the launch day of Xbox.
Right. And if Sony's a week later, I mean,
I
don't think Valhalla is going to be the system seller because if it's...
No, Xbox, their big blow is when Halo got delayed.
Right. Especially if PS5's 10 days later, if you want to play Valhalla and you wanted a PS5, you're not going to be getting the Xbox to play 10 days earlier.
Especially since it plays on an Xbox One too.
Right, and it's not a multiplayer game. Like, I have to get in 10 days early. Speaking of multiplayer, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, the PS4 version will be available. The Xbox One have to buy a Series X version.
Okay.
So if you buy the Xbox Series X game, you can play it on the Xbox One. If you buy the Xbox One version, you cannot play it.
That's not great.
No, I don't know if that's an optimization thing, because it's already come out. We know that certain games will not be optimized unless you play on the games won't be optimized on the Series S. You'll have to play it on the Series X. So apparently, if you buy the next gen version, you get a free copy. If you buy the current gen, you will not. Anyway.
Somebody is worse at math than I am.
Technically, Control's in this list because if you buy the Ultimate Edition you will have, but Cyberpunk, Destiny 2, Dirt 5, Doom Eternal, Elder Scrolls Online, Far Cry 6. Far Cry 6 is interesting because it's so far out, but
Yeah, that's what, February next
yeah,
year?
I mean it makes sense because then if you didn't buy a PS5, FIFA 21 only available before FIFA 22, so it's a limited, I guess.
Why? What's with all this limited crap?
Hitman 3, the digital version only. Immortals, Phoenix Rising.
Oh yeah, we got the gameplay. Oh, there was an Ubi
Yes.
Forward last week. That was the
Yes.
news.
Oh, that was the other thing.
Oh yeah, that.
We'll mention that in a second. Madden only available for if you purchase before December 31st, and then free upgrades available until March 31st.
This year's Madden was so bad though.
Avengers, they already announced that, and that's actually a physical too. I remember they said no matter what version you buy. Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom is on this list.
Okay. What?
NBA 2K21 only available for the Mamba Forever edition, so it's almost like a control issue there.
Almost.
Riders Republic, which was mentioned at Ubi Forward, which is actually a steep spiritual successor. I didn't realize that at first when I heard the title.
Yeah, no.
Rainbow Six Siege, Watch Dogs Legion, which, did you see the reveal that Aiden Pierce is in the game?
Yep.
That was so cool, the reveal.
That was one of the things
talking
that
and it pans up and you're like, oh shit.
people were excited about like 3 things from that Ubi Forward, and that was one of them.
Witcher 3.
Yep.
I don't know if they mentioned if it's physical too.
I don't know, but they're going all out with Cyberpunk. I mean, that whole studio is doing upgrades.
I mean, you can't really be mad if Witcher 3 is not a free upgrade physical. I mean, the game's been out long enough that how would you even
I don't know
do
how
that?
these things work.
Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Another recent game.
And then for PS4 to 5, Dead by Daylight, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, and WRC 9. And then there's a bunch of Xbox games. And just announced that the Gearbox panel at PAX Online, Borderlands 3, if you own it, you get a free upgrade for PS5 and Xbox Series S and X, which is really cool.
I'm surprised they haven't said stuff about like Crash, yet for like Sony.
Maybe it's just not being. I think these games. My guess is these games are being optimized in some way.
Yeah, but you would think with Crash releasing a month theoretically before the console, that would be on the list.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's just using every ounce of processing power the PS4 has, that they can't do anything further on the PS5, so it's just like, oh, you can play it anyway.
Oh yeah, Ghost wasn't on the list. That's not been in there yet.
Oh no.
Ghost, Last of Us.
People thought Ghost was good because Sony had been tweeting out something about Relax, and it was Jin in one of the springs.
Yep.
I wonder if we'll get an announcement when the DLC comes out that it's
yeah, and
upgraded.
that's within the next month or 2, right? Something like that. They said fall.
I thought it was the end of
I think
September.
all they said was fall.
Oh, okay. I thought they gave a date. But yeah, I mean, we'll get that in 2 days for us now, yesterday when this goes up. I wonder if we get pre-order. I think they announced a pre-order date for Xboxes
September 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah. So that's in 8 days from now when we're recording.
It's insane. And everything's like...
This whole year is ridiculous, so...
It really is nuts that like we'd be pre-ordering systems that come out soon.
Did you even see the news today? It's like, yeah, Sony is using... They've set up like extra aircraft to be moving these freaking units for this holiday season.
Yeah, it's like some absurd number too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did have the Ubi Forward. the big things were Watch Dogs Legion. Agent Aiden Pierce will be in the game.
And that singer, oh crap. I don't keep up with the kids. There was that guy who's doing his own music.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he's British. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. What else did they show?
They showed gameplay for Immortals Phoenix Rising, which...
I heard it's a trademark issue, was the rename.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. I did watch some of the gameplay because I'm excited for the idea of this game. I'm fine with Assassin's Creed hits Breath of the Wild, but it is very, very similar to Odyssey. One of the problems they have with Origins, with Odyssey, and now with this game is they don't do much to even differentiate them. Like the UI, like it's the same menu sounds, it's the same HUD, it's the same. So it feels like something, there's like these subliminal triggers that it's telling your brain you're playing the same damn game. They showed the Scott Pilgrim thing.
Oh, yeah.
They showed, oh shit. What does Ubisoft make? I already forgot. There was something else. Not Scott Pilgrim, but something else older.
Oh, Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia. Oh yeah, the remake that everybody's shitting on. I've seen a lot of the Halo guy, his face over Prince Death Dance.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, like, the problem is they're calling it a remake, yes, but it looks more in line with what the audience generally would expect of a remaster for, like, last gen. Like, it doesn't look particularly good when you put it up against all of, like, remake nowadays means Resident Evil 2 or 3, Final Fantasy 7, Spyro, Crash. These games look freaking crisp when they are remakes. This looks more like a remaster that was done at low budget.
Yep. So we'll see. Big news for next week. We will also announce our final Game Club game for the year, just because with next-gen consoles, I don't know if we'll be wanting to jump into everything. Matt will be talking about Spelunky 2, which comes out tomorrow or 2 days ago when you listen to this. And Moose will be getting ready for next Tuesday, which releases the 100 floor tower in the Division 2, which, if you remember from last week, he said he was deleting it. Spoilers.
No, he's not.
He didn't do it. But that'll do it for episode 30.
Wait, before we go, predictions for the showcase, PS5 showcase. Not about price. Games. Talk games to me.
I don't even want it, but the rumors are Final Fantasy 16.
No. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You can stop that right now. I'm not listening to any of it because I don't even want to have hope. I don't. Also, Square has the nasty habit of announcing games 5+ years before they come out.
True. They should announce Final Fantasy 6.
7 Remake Part 2 would be nice, but I don't... Square's going to announce something, and I am not committing myself to saying it's FF16.
More Nier?
Nier, I don't think so, because Nier is going to have a PAX thing on the 24th.
Oh, right.
People, I think they are reaching, and I do not think this is going to be happening, but like a 15-second teaser for the next God of War. I don't think that's going to happen. It's too early. They need to save some stuff for next year.
Yeah, there was something that Corey Barlog tweeted that people thought it was
wild.
His Twitter, it's actually fun to watch. Like, it's his range of different so it didn't see. I would have said something from Mortal Kombat or from NetherRealm, but they didn't announce it at DC Fandom, and Ed Boon was on a Injustice panel, so I don't see that happening because that would have been the place. Because I mean, WB owns it. Like, it would have made the most sense right there to do it. I don't know. I'd kind of just be happy with confirmation of launch titles.
Yes. Which I think will be, like you said earlier, Miles
I almost
Morales,
don't.
Ratchet.
I almost don't want any other announcement unless it's being added to the launch lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, other
Agreed.
than we know we're getting Hitman in VR in January. Oh, I would like to see something about maybe PS Plus and PS Now. Something, not necessarily if they're merging, just something, because they gotta do something.
Yeah, do
I
you
don't
think
need,
they'll
I
say
don't,
anything about backwards compatibility? Because that could be their inroad right there, is a new combined service between those.
yeah, would be nice because, I mean, I'm always defending PS Plus when people complain about the games because, I mean, even if the games suck, you pay $60. If you pay $60, but personally, I've paid $90 for 3 years worth, so I've definitely gotten deals on it. But at $60, even if 9 months of the year the games suck, if you get 3 months of quality games, you're getting $60 worth.
Yeah.
So it's, but I do think that said, I do think they need to do more with it, and I think merging PS Now with it would just be.
Yep. And then you can use that almost like not your Game Pass, but it could be a way to be more backwards compatible because that's what PS Now does. It has those older games in its library. You need to figure out your cloud streaming. They already allow you to download some games on the service. I don't know how the PS5 is going to handle that. I would hope it's a pattern that continues where they offer both cloud streaming and downloadable titles.
Yeah, I mean, they're straight up calling the Xbox Series S a Game Pass machine.
Yep.
The fact that that's happening, they need, hopefully they're doing something. It would be nice to hear more about it.
So Microsoft, I don't know if it's too early to say this, but Microsoft's going to win the value war. That's what they're going for, the value war. But if you look at how Sony's handling this announcement versus what Xbox did, which was very clever following the leak, assuming again, like I told you, there's all these conspiracies, like did Sony start the rumor about themselves announcing on the 25th anniversary in NA to pressure Xbox to say something? I've seen all that crap. But Sony's going to do a broadcast because they're going to win the exclusives, at least for the short term, if not the long term of this gen. So Xbox, value. Sony, exclusives.
But I wouldn't necessarily discount Sony on the value because if they include PS Plus with, because I think when I bought my I think when I bought my PS4, I got like 3 months free. If they include something, especially after hearing that you can get Game Pass Ultimate with the purchase, like with the All Access, if they merge PS Plus and Now and pre-ordering nets you a year, I mean, the fact that you have the exclusives, plus PS Now is even older, and if you could play all your PS4 games, like if they came out and said you could play any PS4 games, these games you can find online will be optimized, but all games will work. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake that they are likely to make in the Wednesday show is that they will not talk about backwards compatibility. Whereas the biggest mistake that they're unlikely to make is not talking about price and release.
Right.
So I think the biggest mistake they're likely to make is not talking about backwards compatibility or services. But I would understand not talking about the services as much as like, they just need to, for me, say, hey, you can play 1,000 games from PS4 on your PS5 day one. They may not all be optimized, but you can play 1,000 of them. You know what I mean? They need to just get that out there because there's so much misinformation on the internet. But I understand that they're like, in this broadcast, we're talking hardware. In this broadcast, we're talking VR. In this broadcast, they like to bucket things. I don't think they'll go into full services when they're focusing on PS5 launch information.
Right. I mean, what I'd like to see is price, date, Tell me the backwards compatibility. I mean, if they're not clear about like will my external hard drive work, like that, fine, that can come out later. But all PS4 games will run. Only these are optimized for now. Like if they do what when Xbox Game Pass came out, like, or backwards compatible. Remember they released it piecemeal. Like these games are now backwards compatible. Like maybe that's how PlayStation does it. Like these are now optimized, but they still run anyway. And a big thing for me would be because they've said it, but not definitively. VR will work fine, like the headset. So you're good to, like, you don't need the new stuff. Like it'll work. I mean, worst case for me, like I'm not getting rid of my PS4. If I want to play the VR titles, yeah, I don't play it enough that it's not an issue. If I want to play them, I'll just play on the PS4. That's not the deal breaker, obviously, for me. But yeah, but the price and the they can't not announce the price and the date. So I think just launch lineup and services would be a. Oh, but what I was going to say before is it's Wednesday. Thursday's when the 3080, the new graphics card, goes on sale. So it's conveniently right in there with a price and a date to kind of sway people like, oh, I'm not getting a Series S, I'm getting a new graphics card.
That's the thing. A lot of people, they're going to get nervous. If you don't talk about price and date right now, they're going to commit themselves to something else that they know the cost of.
Oh, and if they buy a new graphics card, they're not buying any.
Yeah. Xbox pre-orders go live on the 22nd. They need to have their price and release date information out before that happens, or some people are going to panic buy an Xbox.
Can you imagine that? Comes out, pre-orders available today.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
The internet.
It would break the internet. That's probably why it's not. They're like, hey, Sony, you can't shadow drop this right now. But in terms of game predictions, so I think it is likely that Square could announce something, but the whole speculation about FF16 comes from one of the developers liking the tweet from PlayStation announcing the broadcast. So that's super, super thin. Like, they didn't even retweet it. They liked it. So I would say temper expectations, but I think we could see something in a smaller space from a smaller dev, an indie studio. I would love to see something like Lost Soul Aside finally reappear here, because that game's been too quiet for too long. It's part of the China Hero project. It's Sony up the wazoo. I would like to see something like that happen. But otherwise, I don't want to hear about it if it's not launching within the next 6 months.
You think we see the UI?
I think we're going to see a lot of the buttons floating around on the screen for various interludes. I don't know if we're going to see the UI.
We could see them announce that Last of Us 2 is optimized or free upgrade along with the factions.
I think they should do that for all of their big, like every one of their.
I agree, but Last of Us 2.
I think they should just have like a PlayStation Hits optimized for PS5 and do Ghost, Last of Us, Horizon, God of War, all of them. They should have that as part of the broadcast. That would be huge.
But yeah, Last of Us 2 factions, still, we don't know all the info. I mean, it's a Sony exclusive. It would make sense.
But I don't know how far off that game is because it got spun out into its own thing. Same with the Cyberpunk multiplayer, and we know that's years away.
Yeah.
Some people are like, what's next after Uncharted for Naughty Dog? Because Last of Us is all set for now. New IP, question mark. So, trying to think first-party studios we have not heard from for Sony. Because they could be a candidate for a game coming out of the woodwork.
Well, what's been out what didn't release something this year?
Sony Santa Monica, but obviously
that's God of War. So
the Days Gone dev, Sony Bend, maybe their next project.
I'd lose my shit if Siphon Filter opened this.
I think I'm gonna lose my shit no matter what happens, because I'm just when they did the June show, that was just so exciting. It was so exciting. I was sweating my ass off in my living room, and I didn't care because it was so exciting. Even though literally half the broadcast was just the shapes, the buttons floating around the screen.
Yeah, so we should get a lot of info.
40 minutes.
Yep. Well, I think that does it for episode 37, Game Club number 6.
How do we close this without Moose? Do
Well,
we just stare awkwardly?
On the count of 3, we can both do it.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Story Route Zero, we have some cool friends who do some cool things, and I'd like to tell you about them. Phoenix Overdrive uses the power of games and gamers to help heal sick kids through the charity Extra Life. Phoenix Overdrive fundraises for Children's Miracle Network hospitals all year, every year, and the fund culminates in a 24-hour gaming marathon. Find out more about their events and projects online via Facebook at facebook.com/Phoenix Overdrive or on Twitter and Instagram at PHX_Overdrive. You can also join the Facebook group of Pawn Stars at facebook.com/groups/PO Nation in order to share and discuss all the latest in nerd culture. They've also got a podcast, Nerd Overdrive, which you can see weekly at youtube.com/Phoenix Overdrive. You can also catch it on Facebook Live or twitch.tv/PHX_Overdrive. That podcast is also published on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. You want merch? They got merch. Merch can be ordered from tinyurl.com/PHXODmerch, a portion of which goes to their fundraising efforts. Join the nation and be a hero to sick kids, as El Capitan Ray Osorio, Lee the Maestro, and Becky, the lovely queen of the guild, always say, #Rise Above. Thank you for listening to Story Route Zero. We hope you have enjoyed your time here as much as we've enjoyed having you. Once again, questions, concerns, complaints, pictures of pets, or favorite recipes can be sent to storyroute0@gmail.com. You can yell at us on Twitter at StoryRoute0. Rate us and review us on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you may have found us, as it helps with discoverability. If you'd like to hit us up individually, you can find Moose Cool at Sven, that's SVHENN on Twitter, PSN, Instagram, and of course Twitch, streaming games. You can find Jason Marshall writing at obelisk.co. You can also find him on Twitter at GimpyJ with 2 Y's at the end, as well as PSN, Instagram, and Twitch. He also has his own website, whereisthepausebutton.com. You can find Michaela Crescione doing all sorts of writing at obelisk.co, as well as on Twitter at RedXMod. My name is Matthew Keel. You can find me everywhere I'd like to be at infinite_rewind. That's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Twitch, that's PSN, and I also have my own website, infiniterewind.com. Be sure to check us out at all the places. You are always welcome, and you will always have a seat waiting for you on this ride. Thank you for listening, but for now, it's back to the real world for us. So we will see you on the next one.